Of a new podcast here at ABC News, one that focuses on the special counsel's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. As we know, Jordan, the investigation coming to a close, winding down. We've heard from officials. It does seem that way. And our Kira Phillips, chief investigative reporter, joins us now from New York. She has produced a new podcast today that is launching called The Investigation. It's a weekly look at the Mueller probe and all things investigation. Kira, give us your top line on the new episode. It's a really fascinating listen.
Well, first of all, I'm going to pull both of you into the podcast. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, we're in.
Okay, because you guys cover the White House. You know all the ins and outs, and that's the purpose of this, is taking our whole investigative team and folks like you guys that are at the White House and dealing with all the issues every day, in particular the Mueller investigation. We just felt like a lot of people ask us what's going to happen, what's going on, what are the details, when are we going to know something? And then this idea came up about the podcast, and we thought, okay, we're talking about this and covering this every single day. Let's do a podcast and have a conversation with newsmakers. And so the very first person we were able to pull into our adventure, shall we say, John Dowd. As you know, guys, he was in charge of Trump's legal team, and he is the one that received those 40-plus questions from Robert Mueller at the very beginning and had to look through them, whittle them down, and decide what the president was going to answer and what he wasn't going to answer. And what he said in our podcast actually made news today when I asked him about the Mueller investigation, what he thought it would reveal. He told me things like, it's terrible, it's a waste of time, it will say nothing, it's one of the greatest frauds this country has ever seen. Also saying we probably have better intelligence than they do, better intelligence than Robert Mueller and his investigators. So the interview was definitely pretty provocative, guys. I actually understand we have a clip from the podcast. Let's go ahead and roll it, and then we'll talk about it.
And we're actually, though, Kira, really lucky for our first guest. Who do we got?
We have brought in John Dowd. He was at the helm of all of President Trump's attorneys, left actually in March of 2018. He's been around, as you know, Washington for a very long time. Iran-Contra, Whitewater Committee. So he has all kinds of war stories.
He also investigated Pete Rose, too.
That's right. But right before his departure last March, he handled the meeting, the actual meeting with Mueller before leaving the White House. He's the one that received those 49 questions from Robert Mueller and whittled them down and decided what exactly would be turned over to special counsel. Well, the question at the top of everyone's mind, the highly anticipated Mueller report, will it actually clear President Trump and members of his campaign? Here now, the man we've been talking about, our conversation with President Trump's former attorney, John Dowd. So, John, word is the Mueller report is going to drop within the next couple of weeks.
I don't think there'd be a report. The rules of the department say no report.
So what do you think's going to, what do you think it will be?
I don't know. I mean, a declination is a declination. It's like, I've written a declination or told my superiors or the Attorney General what I've declined on. I did the internal investigation of the FBI. I declined probably 20 cases there. I just.
So you don't think the public's going to see anything? You think it's $40 million, Mueller investigated it, and that's it?
No, but the rules of the department, just put yourself in the president's shoes. Let's say we investigate you guys, and it comes out you're witnessing the subject, you cooperate transparently, and we take all those facts and we say, there's nothing here. The idea that you would take that information and make it public, violates the whole concept of the grand jury. What's the grand jury for? To protect the innocent. And by the way, I've read thousands of grand juries, and it does protect the innocent. I mean, maybe 1 in 10 cases you would bring, but you would investigate. I'm talking about organized crime, public corruption. You come close to really awful stuff. But is it a crime? Is it prosecutable? No. Does that ever get reported? No.
So you're saying when Mueller's report drops, it's going to be a flop. You're saying. We're not going to.
Well, I will be shocked if anything regarding the president is made public, other than we're done.
But
the president has and his lawyers have have been fairly transparent. I mean, it's, everybody knows who the witnesses were, and the White House documents are another question, particularly the communications by counsel with the president, which we gave to Bob. So, Bob, there's no time in history has anybody had this kind of look at communications with the president.
Do you respect what Mueller is doing? I know you know Mueller well.
Well, I respected it in the beginning, and I started out, and it's my style is I always trust the other side until I didn't. In my opinion, on March 5th, we were done. He had everything. He said he had everything. He told me that no one had lied. He told me they had every document we asked for. He told me that there was nothing more. He told me that the president was not a target. That is, he did not have any exposure, that he was a witness subject, which is perfectly normal for someone's conduct you're looking at, but they don't have exposure. What people don't understand about the president, and I think the same would be with you, is you have too much information in your life. When you go back and talk about Flynn or Comey, those events, while magnified in the media, are nothing. Not compared to the threat of the Soviet Union, the threat of China, dealing with Japan, dealing with Korea. The amount of information that he intakes every day and gets prepared for is staggering. And in my questioning him or talking to him, first question, easy. Second question, easy. Third question, he wasn't sure. And he doesn't like being unsure. So he'll guess. There's your trap right there. It's not whether he lies or not. Everybody wants to get into this, this integrity business. It's not a matter of integrity. It's overload.
John, why didn't you advise him to do an interview with Bob Mueller? Just let him sit down with Bob Mueller, let him be interviewed. What were you worried about?
What I was worried about is that he really couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. There's no way he could. We'd have to script it. As a matter of fact, I told Bob, I said, why don't you just let us script it? Because Flynn, Papadopoulos, Gates, look what Bob's doing. What I call nickel-dime process crimes. I ran big corruption cases. I didn't go around picking scabs and just making any case I could make. If there was a petty case, I shifted it to someone else. I didn't do it. And that's where I disagree with Bob.
But the president ended up the president's lawyers ended up taking your advice, right? They ended up.
By the way, they never disagreed with me. The team, Giuliani and the Raskins and Jay, never disagreed with me.
But what do you think Mueller's been doing then? That was March that you left, right? March of last year, 2018. What do you think has taken Mueller so long?
I don't know. All I can tell you is what I do know, and I know a lot because, as people have found out, we communicate on this side of the fence. As a matter of fact, we've got probably better intelligence than they do. Without questioning anybody's good faith, because there's some very good people over there. It's been a waste of time, and it's been petty, and it's been bureaucratic, and you don't need to do that. When you're dealing at this level, you're playing the World Series, okay? And you don't get down with the petty stuff here.
What do you think the Democrats will say if the report is submitted and not made public? What do you think?
They'll go crazy like they always do. They whine and cry. Republicans would do the same thing, But, it's just, we can't wait. Grassley says, I can't wait to get the report from Mueller. Mueller has no obligation. All he is a departmental attorney, nothing more. Okay, that's it. He abides by the rules. And by the way, it's got to go up. It's got to go up to Barr.
Well, you must know Barr rather well, I assume.
I don't know. I know of him, and I had left the department when he was Attorney General, but he was a great Attorney General. He did a terrific job, and I am so pleased that he's going to be back because he knows the place from top to bottom, and he's very bright. and he's gonna call it right down the middle and do a good job.
That's quite the opposite from what you've said about the leadership of the Justice Department. I mean, you have just lambasted, everybody else previously. So you're seeing a shift here.
Well, look, I tried to deal with Rosenstein. Early on, we wrote a letter to Mueller saying, look, Comey's the accuser in this phony investigation. We think there are other issues regarding his conduct as to the origin of this whole business. Turns out, not only was I right, but Comey admitted that there were no facts to investigate the president on. I mean, there's no collusion. So, so Bob said he wasn't looking at it. So I wrote to Rosenstein. He blew me off. That's not leadership. That's not accountability. This is very serious. I mean, we were very serious, and we did it in writing. We did it politely. We did it confidentially, and he just blew us off. So I lost all respect for Rob Rosenstein. And Sessions, I don't know what he was doing. I'm not sure Sessions knows what he was doing.
Michael Cohen, we've got to ask you about Michael Cohen. The joint defense agreements, what did you learn from the Michael Cohen investigation, and what does Michael Cohen know?
You know what he knows, and I never discuss joint defense because they're confidential communications. We were just briefed, like every other witness, on what he was going to tell the House and Senate and other things. And Michael Cohen, has done a great job of putting the rope around his neck.
But when you saw what the Southern District of New York did, raiding him, he was the president's lawyer at the time, right, or one of the lawyers?
He was a minor personal lawyer on some personal matters.
Your client is a prolific tweeter, and as a lawyer, that must have frustrated you. That must have said, "Oh my God!"
It's just a fact of life. You just deal with as best you can. And on my suggested tweet, I just he wanted to tweet about something, and I made a suggestion, and et cetera. And of course, the media went crazy.
Well, not that tweet. How about all the other tweets? How about all his tweets?
I don't.
Do you think it causes damage? I mean, makes it worse? Adds gasoline, fuel to the fire?
I'll let someone else evaluate that. We got our job done. I don't want to take sides in that debate. Would I rather go another way? Of course, but look, the president's the president. I know what I've got on my hands, and if I don't like it, I can always exit. But I'm his friend. I'm his advocate. I know what the case is. There is no case, and my job is to sort of bring that home. And we did the very best we could to bring it home. I think it is coming home, and I think it's coming home in the same shape. And then there are people in the press say, "Well, he must have some surprise." He doesn't have. I know exactly what he has. I know exactly what every witness said, what every document said. I know exactly what he has, and I know what the conclusion of the result is.
What does he have? What's the result? What's the conclusion?
Decline. There's no basis. There's no exposure. It's been a terrible waste of time. What's worse is, let's get on the other side of this, how it all happened. This is one of the greatest frauds this country's ever seen. And I'm just shocked that Bob Mueller didn't call it that way and say, I'm being used. I would have done that. If I were in his shoes in this thing, I'd have gone to Sessions and Rosenstein and said, look, this is nonsense. We are being used by a cabal and the FBI to get even.
So what do you say?
This is awful. I mean, the corruption at the top of the FBI is staggering. And that's how this all happened. And by the way, look at what the FBI witnesses have said. I know about no collusion. I mean, Comey knew nothing about collusion. So what are we doing then?
What do you say to Trump's relationship with Putin? What do you say to the discussions about a Trump-Moscow deal? Everything that's out there. Everything.
There was no deal. There was no deal. Trump believes he could deal with Putin. He's found out what it's like dealing with Putin. He's been educated, like every president is educated. I remember Hillary did the reset button. I mean, what a joke. So they're all, thing is, when you're president, you can't guarantee any results. You have to do what you have to do. But there's nothing out there. There's no project in Moscow. They have every document known to mankind. That's all ginned up nonsense. But they have all the emails. They have the Seder stuff. They have the Cohen stuff. There is nothing more. And they know it. And not only do they have it, but they've questioned people about it. Exhausted.
But looking forward, put your crystal ball for the next 2 years of this presidency. What do you see? What do you see? For not policy, but you've been in Washington a long time, and it's a divided Congress.
The investigations?
Yeah.
Well, I
And
guess,
not Mueller
I guess the Hill is going to do what they're going to do. And I expect the White House, to the extent it can, will cooperate. But I don't think it'll be shy about its privileges. Now you're dealing with another branch of government. You're not dealing with Mueller, who's in the executive. Big deal. Big deal. So for historical reasons, for constitutional reasons, they got to be careful. Okay.
How do you think history will look at the Mueller investigation 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
Not well.
Robert Mueller. How will he go down in history?
I don't know. He's going to have to decide that.
Donald J. Trump.
Full plate. A man with a big heart who means well, but has had all kinds of challenges. But he I'm in his corner. I'm in his corner. He's the boss. He governs this country.
All right. Well,
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much.
Fascinating stuff here. Really incredible. And we should say for the audience, just if you were listening along there, when John Dowd's talking about a declination, it's legal speak for declining to prosecute somebody. And so his whole point was, Kira, as you know well, that by declining to prosecute, there's really nothing more to say.
And that, both of us, and you heard Chris Blasto's voice as well. Folks might be wondering, wait a minute, who's that other voice? It was John Dowd, it was me and Chris Blasto, who is the head of our investigative unit. We actually did the interview together. When John Dowd said declination, we both looked at each other and like, what did he just say? And Chris said, that's a headline. I said, yeah, that's a headline. And sure enough, that's what everybody has been talking about. So, our sources have been telling us, and I think you guys have been getting the same information as well, that keep your expectations low, that the word is there isn't going to be anything explosive within this report. The other side is saying, actually, no, Mueller has really been taking his time. This has been an airtight investigation. We're talking $40 million. He's going to have something. And the bottom line is we really don't know.
And so much of it is already played out in public. I mean, you've already had 34 indictments, and so many of those indictments have been huge bombshells in their own right, individually.
But when we're talking about collusion, and we're talking about the President of the United States and Russia and Russian election meddling, I mean, we don't have anything yet.
And Kira, one really fascinating part of the conversation, John Dowd kind of explained to you why he was a leading advocate against the president sitting down with Robert Mueller, even when the president really wanted to. What did he give as a reason?
I asked him that question, Jordan. I said, why didn't you just have the president sit down face to face with Bob Mueller? And he gave me this look. It was actually kind of funny. I wish you could have been in the room with us. Like, Kira, are you crazy? We were talking about Donald Trump here. He said, I actually would have been okay with that if I could script his response face to face with Robert Mueller. And so I think there definitely is a feeling within all the attorneys that they have to, Trump likes to ad lib, right? Trump likes to kind of say his own thing, tweet his own thing, do his own thing. And that always makes lawyers very nervous. So therein lies the reason the questions and answers were prepared and handed off to Robert Mueller the way they were through John Dowd.
Well, Kira, kudos to you and the team. It's a great listen, a great interview with John Dowd to kick off this premiere of this new ABC News investigative podcast called The Investigation. It's going to be a fascinating series each week to start.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.